The Locked On Podcast Network presents the College Sports Big 3 in 30. The three biggest stories in college sports. From our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The College Sports Big 3 in 30 starts now with the biggest story in college sports.
If you did not see the news yesterday, and it came out of the clear blue, for at least for me, Alai Kalaniavalu has signed with the BYU football program. Now, some of you may remember that name, some of you may not. This kid has had quite a high-profile recruitment, and it comes down to essentially I've never seen, and I'm admitting something here. I have never seen the entire series of The Office all the way through. I know a lot of the moments. I know a lot of the memes that are out there, but I've never seen the entire show. But I do know there is this snip, snap meme that I see all the time on social media, and it fits what Alai Kalaniavalu did here during his recruitment. Remember, this is a kid who played at Timpview High School and then moved to Bishop Gorman High School down in Las Vegas. Plays on the interior of Bishop Gorman's highly touted football program, on the interior of their offensive line at center, and maybe the strongest high school offensive lineman I have seen in quite some time. He is a powerful individual, 6'4", 300+ pounds, and there are some people that believe that at some point in the near future, obviously after he gets home off of a mission, because that's the other strange thing about this, is he signed with BYU despite already being in the mission field. He's serving a mission in the Denver area, if I recall correctly. Speaking of Denver, Colorado, but he is signed with BYU. If you remember his recruitment out of Bishop Gorman, he committed to Oregon. Then obviously decided to flip his commitment to BYU last football season, speaking of 2024. And then just days, it wasn't even days. It was the day of the early signing window. There was kind of a question like, hey, why hasn't Alai Kalaniavalu signed with BYU yet? Well, it comes out that he has flipped his commitment back to the Ducks and signed with Oregon. So he signed the paperwork, obviously, and was going to be an Oregon Duck. And now, 4 or 5 months later, he's decided BYU is where his heart lies and where he wants to be. Could he change his mind again? I guess he could. But for now, celebrate the win for BYU. This is their third 4-star pickup in the past month and change. Nusi Taumueapea obviously transferring from Stanford in the wake of Troy Taylor's firing. Bear Bachmeier, same deal, a 4-star quarterback in his own right, comes to BYU after Troy Taylor was fired, and he ultimately decided to transfer out of the Stanford football program. And now you still one of the top-tier prospects from the Oregon Ducks, and I say top tier because if I recall correctly, Mitch Harper may have written this, I think. He is, speaking of Kalaniavalu, he would be the 8th highest rated signing all time for BYU if you go by recruiting rankings. Obviously, they go back to the late 90s in most people's minds, early 2000s. It's a pretty incredible pickup for BYU. Obviously serving a mission, so he's a part of the 2027 recruiting cycle if you want to keep track at home, so you will not see him for a little while. But he's got family connections to BYU. I believe it was his brother-in-law. Is it Sonny Makassini? I'm trying to remember who it was that his sister is married to inside the BYU football program, and that obviously was a draw when he originally flipped to BYU. But then, I'll be blunt, NIL and some of the offers that Oregon was throwing his way, I wouldn't have it would have been hard for me to ignore the amount of money that Oregon was apparently willing to offer him in NIL to flip back and sign with the Ducks. Ultimately, as Hart decided he wanted to be a BYU, I can't rule out that BYU maybe came back with an NIL offer, but this is a kid out there serving the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints as a full-time missionary. I don't think he's in hard negotiations with Coug Connect or with the Royal Blue Collective about, hey, I need this amount of money to sign with BYU, because, he's kind of got other things on his priority list. But really, really crazy recruitment, but all's well that ends well for BYU. And as I said in my YouTube short, to quote the famous line from Dumb and Dumber, this proves once and for all that you cannot triple stamp a double stamp. You're welcome, everybody. All right, but the other thing about this real quick is it shows that BYU's got major cachet on the recruiting front. NIL has played a role in it, absolutely. But I believe for years, and I think a number of you out there believed this right along with me, that if and when BYU finally was able to recruit on an even playing field with the likes of Utah and the rest of the Power Four out there, that BYU would more than hold their own. We are just seeing BYU start to blossom as a recruiting power. And it goes back to a topic we had on today's podcast in that first little stanza. I think BYU is a legit power. That was one of the quotes from an anonymous coach inside the Big 12. Well, you know what? What makes you a power is to have legitimate 4-star talent. I have long said that BYU has routinely brought in 2- and 3-star talent, speaking of the recruiting process and the recruiting rankings, and they have gotten 4- and 5-star production out of those players. What could you do with more? I say it all the time. What can you do more with more? Well, you know what more is? 4-star talents. High-level 3-star talents that BYU could have only dreamed of landing when they were an independent football program. And guys said, hey, I want to play Power 5 football. Love you, BYU, but I'm going somewhere else. That's completely changed. The whole identity for BYU on the recruiting front is changing right before our very eyes. They're bringing in legit 4-star talents, and those 4-star players, you're going to build the next iteration of BYU football under Kalani Sitake on the backs of those guys. And it sure looks like the future is very, very bright for BYU. Yeah, I know right now it seems a little murky with the Jake Retzlaff situation obviously pending out there, but the other side of it is there are 22 players on the field at any given 11 players on the field at any given time, 22 players offensively and defensively in a game. Quarterbacks are of utmost importance. There's no doubt about it, but you have to have other players around them to succeed. And a guy like Kalani Avalu, he's probably going to be the center of the future for BYU. And BYU's had some pretty good centers of late. Connor Pay, Tejan Karoma, Jake Empey. They've had James Empey, not Jake Empey. James Empey. They've had some really, really strong offensive linemen. I like Kalani Avalu, at least on paper, looks like he is as good, if not better than those guys coming into BYU. He's rated 94 by 24/7 Sports. He adds, once again, to an incredibly strong 2025 recruiting cycle. And the crazy thing is, even with those additions to the 2025 cycle, 2026 could one-up it. That's what BYU is doing right now. They are completely changing their whole image on the recruiting trail. And it's happening, as I mentioned, right before our very eyes. Enjoy it. This is the coming of age moment for Kalani Sitake and the BYU football program. It's something they have long craved, the chance to really recruit with a Power 4 label attached to their name. NIL has absolutely changed the game, the transfer portal as well. But BYU's taken advantage of every opportunity given to them. And what we are observing now is the fruits of those labors. It's not been easy. BYU had to grind for a really, really long time. A, to get into the Big 12, and obviously B, to go out there and bounce back from a 5-7 debut campaign that had some people worried they couldn't compete at the Power 4 level. And then put together an 11-2 campaign last year that showed, oh yeah, they absolutely can compete. That's what young men want to do. They want to play high-level football, but more importantly than that, they want to win along with it. They want to develop their skills and go to the NFL. That's kind of the next step for BYU is to get these 4-star talents into the program, develop them, get that, once again, 5-star production from them, and then send them off to a professional career if that's what's in the cards for them. It's a really, really cool thing to watch BYU becoming what a lot of us, and yours truly included, wanted and have hoped they could be for quite some time. And it's literally happening in real time right now.
The NBA playoffs roll on, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and you place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. FanDuel makes betting easy, whether it's picking your favorites or diving into player props from three-pointers to steals to assists. There's so many ways to bet your favorite player props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine live prop bets into a same-game parlay for a chance to win big. Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today.
Pat Kelsey has added another player to next year's roster.
You are Locked On Louisville, your daily podcast on the Louisville Cardinals.
On Thursday afternoon, it was reported by John Chepkovich, I hope I'm saying that right, director of scouting for DraftExpress.com. According to him, Greek big man Vangelis Zouguris has officially committed to the Louisville Cardinals. We'll discuss what he brings to the table, what this means for the Cardinals front court, and whether or not Louisville will add any more players for next year's roster outside of the Ali Khalifa situation. So we have talked about Zouguris a couple times on this show. I actually had a mailbag question yesterday that was pertaining to if Louisville was going to add anyone else besides waiting for Ali Khalifa. Well, that question was answered today, and I feel kind of silly for saying this. I mentioned that my confidence was waning a little bit with the Zalgiris sweepstakes because we hadn't heard anything over the past couple of weeks since we found out that the Cardinals were rumored to be the favorite in this recruitment. Now, I did acknowledge that things are kept very close to chest on the international recruiting side of things. There's a lot of factors built in, more so than traditional high school recruiting in the United States. So sometimes you don't hear about anything for a while. Well, we got the news on Thursday afternoon. 6'8", 260-pound big man Vangelis is his nickname. Zalgiris has committed to Louisville. Zalgiris played this season in the top league in Greece for, I believe it's pronounced Peristeri, BC, which of course is one of the teams in that top league. And the Greek league, for those that don't know, it's the league that Rick Pitino coached in after his stint at Louisville. It is a league that is extremely physical. It's one of the better competitive leagues in the entire European landscape. You know, you talk about the Bundesliga, where Sananda Fru is playing in, or was playing in currently, until his team lost in the quarterfinal round on Thursday, where he had 21 points and 15 rebounds, 4 blocks, by the way. But anyways, back to Zalgiris. Another player that Louisville brings in is playing at the top level in Europe. Now, let's take a look at the statistical numbers. Zalgiris this season appeared in 23 games for Peristeri, averaging 17.7 minutes per contest. You look at the minutes distribution for the club, and no player played over 29 minutes a game. So really balanced attack. He appeared in 23 games, 17.7 minutes per game, 7.9 points per game on 68.5% shooting. 7.9 points per game doesn't, of course, it's not a lot, but when you consider the usage and his role, I think it's pretty substantial. Averaged 4.6 rebounds a game, 1 assist, 0.5 steals, 0.5 blocks, 1.3 turnovers. 68.8% from the free throw line on pretty small sample size, 2 free throws a game. He did not attempt 1 3-pointer this season. So I think for starters, we have to acknowledge that this addition is addressing the end of the rotation the same way the addition of Muhammad Kamara did. And we knew this. Like, I've had some Louisville fans ask me over the past weeks, and especially over the past, 30 minutes since it's been before or between the announcement and this recording, I don't see the hype about this guy. Where's the potential? Well, I think first things first, you're wanting him to play that end of the rotation role this year. And recruiting for the end of the rotation can be challenging. You might have the money via NIL, revenue sharing, whatever may have you, but trying to recruit a top player to sacrifice and play a lesser role is not always that easy. So I actually almost prefer this to an extent at the end of the rotation, because Zalgiris will be 21 by the start of next season, born in October. He's 20 years old currently, will be 21, one of the youngest players for his Peristeri team. But will be 21, so 6'8", 260 pounds, has the college-ready frame. He's going to be able to come in and be able to bang down low, attack the glass, and execute his role. And there's not a ton of, I say this in a vacuum, there's not a ton of developing that needs to be done. What I mean by that is he's not extremely raw to the point where you can't play him. If you need to play him, you can play him. Now, what is the ceiling looking like for a guy like Zalgiris? That's a different question, because his game is somewhat limited, especially on the offensive end. There's not really a perimeter scoring threat at the moment. It is all around the basket, whether it is as the roll man in pick and roll situations, whether it is cleaning up the offensive glass, or playing in the post, where he has shown the ability to get the ball down low, do a drop step, and throw up a post hook. He's a righty. I thought he was a lefty for whatever reason. But he's able to finish with either hand. Now, the sample size is smaller, but I think that will help him transition to this particular role that Pat Kelsey's going to want him to play. And this is going to be a conversation that we will continue in the next segment when we talk about the front court in its entirety. But he's played under 20 minutes a game. He understands what it means to maximize your minimal minutes. Like, even though he might not get a ton of a role, especially early on, when he does play, he's going to maximize his impact to where, you watch him play, his high energy and high motor is what allows him to see the floor. Of course, 6'8", 260 pounds. He's really strong. He moves well for his size. But on offense, it's all about being that garbage man, so to speak, cleaning up the offensive glass. But also when the ball gets thrown down to him in the paint, where he can, be in the dunker spot and attack the basket, or be involved in the pick and roll. I think that that's going to bode well for his role next season with the guard play that the Cardinals have. I think he brings a skill set that Louisville just sort of needs. They need some bodies in the front court, not knowing with Ali Khalifa's situation. Of course, James Scott ends up entering the portal, so not many fives out there. And height doesn't really determine the role for me. It is the body type and the skill set. So Kenai Roots might be 6'7", 6'8", 6'9", but his body type and his skill set is more that of a wing, or maybe even a power forward. But with Zouguras at 6'8", he's got that center profile, and especially being 260 pounds. So understanding what it means to sacrifice and play a certain role for the better or for the greater good of the team, I think that that's something that's going to help his transition to the college game when he joins Louisville. Now, defensively speaking, he's not a rim protector, but I do think that there is an element of his skill set that will allow him at times, not always, but at times, to defend the perimeter. I think he's going to do well defending the pick and rolls, which is going to be like sneaky valuable, because Sananda Frew has shown all season why he has the potential as a rim protector. But if you're looking for players that can bang down low, that can exhibit that toughness, that will not be outworked, well, you've got one now, at least one now, with Vangelis Zouguras. So I'm excited to see what his role is going to look like. Of course, he's not going to be a starter, but 21 years old, I think that there's potential for him to play a specific role this year, and then maybe in 2026-27, he's able to take another jump forward. And with him playing at this high level in Europe, what does 7.7 or 7.9 points per game in under 20 minutes per contest, equal out to on the American college side of things? Because it's not like he's playing in a lower level European league. He's playing in one of the top leagues in Europe.
Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so stop just managing your money and start building wealth. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Monarch Money makes managing with your partner smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. Code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Official visits are huge for Ohio State to continue to stockpile their 2026 recruiting class with elite talent. There are numerous guys that are already in this group. There are 13 total verbal commitments already. That's a great start. They've already set a great foundation. But Ohio State, over the next few weeks, can do what's needed to add to the group of talent in their 2026 recruiting class. They're going to be competing with Alabama, Georgia, USC, Oregon, Michigan, Penn State, Texas, Oklahoma. You fill in the blank, big boy school, LSU being one of them, that Ohio State's going to be battling with. And this is a proving ground, as every school around the country is trying to put together their best pitch when these recruits come on campus on the school's dime. This is also Ohio State's time to prove to everyone that last year's Natty win was a great one, but that they're trying to build upon that success to have that same success in the future to prove this is where they should play the football. And this is a tough period for Ohio State. Your focus is on the recruits on campus. You're also hosting recruiting camps as well. You're not going to have practice with your team. You're going to get ready to prepare to work with in the fall. So your focus is in recruiting. Long days. The logistics, those that work behind the scenes to make sure the travel arrangements and the accommodations are the way they need to be, make sure all the gift baskets are where they need to be, and everything is set up so nothing goes crazy. Those people that work behind the scenes, this is big for them too, because you work all year for this. The moment when you get guys like Felix Ojo and others, Savion Hyder, Xavier Griffin, and others, those are some of the 5-star recruits that'll be on campus this weekend. There'll be 12 total recruits on campus this weekend during the first official visit weekend around the country, not just for Ohio State, but for anybody. It opens today. And if I'm Ryan Day, my focus is going to be on making sure I keep the main thing. I keep going back to a comment that Jason Witten made when his son came on campus in the spring, talking about how Ohio State is different from some of the other big boy schools in the sport in the best way, not a different in a bad way, different in the right kind of way to attract a former NFL vet to really give great consideration to his son playing football at Ohio State. I believe his son is, I want to say he's a tight end down there in Texas. Position might be wrong, but I do know his son's one of those kids that's going to get attention from everybody. And when Jason Witten makes a comment that Ohio State is better in the best way, that speaks volumes about Ryan Day, the culture that he's created, the players he's brought in, the type of hires he's made. It speaks volumes about him. But also, let's keep it in mind that Ryan Day is one person. And in recruiting, especially during official visits, you have to lean on so many people. Your position coaches, you got to lean on your recruiting staff that you have hired to put together that is not their Super Bowl, but you may well say it's a Super Bowl because it's not just a one-day event. It's a month-long thing where this is what you work for. You try to make sure you do all of your due diligence to make sure that the guys that are around you are doing their job and looking at all the not scouting reports, all the film and the evaluations and the projections for these athletes. This is for you. This is for them. An official visit season is great, but there have been times, I don't mean to be negative here on a Friday, especially on a feel-good Friday, but the context and reality is there are times that Ohio State doesn't knock these visits out of the park. There are times that big-time recruits come in that are trying to be lured and pulled every which way, where they come to Ohio State and they go somewhere else and like, oh, that school's for me. Why is that the case? Is it a financial benefit? Maybe. Is it because they truly believe that they can be developed at another school better than they could at Ohio State? That could also be true. But there are times that visits don't go the way they should go. I remember a visit a couple years ago now, forget the exact year, but Mateo Uiagalelei, I believe he was a visitor to Ohio State, and I thought, oh, man, Buckeyes are going to get him. The next thing you know, Oregon got him. This year, Dylan Thineman, the top safety in the portal, former Purdue Boilermaker, I thought for sure with Lathan Ransom leaving and Caleb Downs still at Ohio State, that's an easy spot to fill. I believe he had a couple years left to play the college football. I thought Ohio State was the ideal spot for Dylan Thineman. What do you find? He went to Oregon. And so while that's the case, where there have been some recruits, and that's just a couple. There was a young man, I believe from Cleveland, in the last recruiting cycle that ended up going to Oregon over Ohio State. So it's not just a couple guys. Oregon's beat out Ohio State for a lot of recruits. Derek Harmon, big boy D tackle. I mean, we can go on and on, but that's what you're going to have to deal with. Guys that weren't in your conference previously, schools that are now in your conference that have great pitches, that have great recruiting staffs to win them almost like this. But while that's a negative, here's the reality as well. It's the Ohio State University, the reigning national champions in college football, the first team to win the 12-team playoff format, the team that has a top 2 coach in the sport, a team that has a history of success, a team that just had 14 guys get drafted into the National Football League and had others get picked up in the undrafted free agent market. That's a school that some of these guys are coming to visit this weekend. And I understand that Oregon and Texas and USC and Oklahoma and Florida State and Miami and Alabama and Georgia Tech, Clemson, South Carolina. I understand SMU. I can go on the list of all these schools. They have great things going for them too. But none of them, absolutely none of them, have going on for them what Ohio State currently has going on for them right now. And Ohio State also has holes. If I'm an offensive lineman, why wouldn't I want to go to Ohio State? We're a school that really has not done the best at O-line recruiting, showed that they could develop in a big way last year, has a new O-line recruit, already has stockpiled 3 verbal commitments in a month span of guys that are high-quality athletes, high-quality individuals. And if he's coming in and making that kind of impact already, why wouldn't I want to consider Ohio State? Oh, D-line, it's Larry Johnson. Yeah, Larry Johnson hasn't hit on all of the big-time recruits like some others have, but he's developed the guys in his room, which is why you can look at the D-tackle depth and say, well, there's a lot of unproven talent there. Okay, cool. That's true. There's also a lot of potential. There's also a lot of really talented guys that are ready for a bigger stage. So I get what other schools have at their disposal, and I understand the recruiting pitches are going to be great, but none of them at the elite level are able, really none of them in the country at all, are able to recruit and to pitch what Ohio State is able to pitch right now. There are 12 total visitors that'll be on campus today over the next few days. 5 defensive linemen, 3 offensive linemen, 2 tight ends, 1 running back, and then 1 linebacker. We're going to go through the list from top to bottom. Just look at the visitors that'll be at Ohio State this weekend and just look at what could come if Ohio State knocks these visits out of the park. The 5 stars, there are 3 of them. Felix Ojo, offensive tackle, Savion Hyder, running back, and Xavier Griffin is a linebacker from Gainesville, Georgia. Some 4 stars, numerous ones. Jake Cruel, he's an edge from Bradenton, Florida, out of IMG. Luke Waffles, an edge. Mac Sutter is an edge. Kerry Wilder is also an edge, and the rest are 3 stars. Breck Collegier is an interior offensive lineman. Preston Carey, D lineman. Corbin Fordham, tight end. He's also already verbally committed to be a Buckeye in the future. Cameron Brickle is a D lineman. Aaron Thomas is an offensive tackle. Like I mentioned, 3 5 stars. They got 5 D linemen, 3 O linemen, 2 tight ends, 1 running back, and 1 linebacker. The biggest name of them all is Felix Ojo. Name a school in the country. I mean, any of the elite schools in the country, they've offered him. They're trying to get his attention. They are trying to lure him to play football for them. And the fact that he's coming to Ohio State first is huge because Ohio State generally has their big official visit weekend later in the cycle. I think weekend 3 or 4 generally when Ohio State brings in their big recruits. But the fact that Ohio State can bring him in with the guy who's already verbally committed, along with a couple other 5 stars in Savion Hyder, who's a really good back. My goodness, that would be a great get for for Carlos Loughlin. And then also Xavier Griffin, who's another really good player, like 5-star or not, don't really matter to me. He's a dog from Gainesville, Georgia. The fact that he could bring him in with those 2 5-stars and then a guy who's already verbally committed, that's huge. Because you're going to be on campus with other guys who you're like, can I play with him as a running back? Do I want that big boy blocking for me? You might say yes. Okay, well, where is he going to go? What is he doing right now? And Ohio State gets the first crack at him. And back when I sold cars, one of the best things that our sales managers told us was treat people like you are their first stop. Now, in this situation, you literally are the first stop. And a lot of times I'm going to get to one in a second, or I am the first stop when people come in to buy cars. But they said, treat them like you're the first stop, because you want to give them your best attention. You want to give them your all. You're going to follow the road to the sale to a T. Treat them like you are the first stop. Okay, great. And there have been times where literally people will come in and say, well, you're the first place I'm coming, but I got an appointment at this dealership across town after this one, and then I got another appointment on the south side after this one. They got another appointment back on this side. So you're telling me already you have 4 appointments, and I'm the first one you're going to come to. You're going to drive all around town looking for a car that I already have on my lot, that the dealership I work for has already done the inspection that other people won't do, that we have a track record of success, and you're still going to tell me you're going to go other places because you still want to do your due diligence and do what you feel is right for you. Great. That's your due diligence. That's what you feel is right. But I get the first crack at it. And with me getting the first crack at it and our dealership at the time, it was rare for you to leave the dealership, go somewhere else, and then not come back to buy the car that you just got. Now, it's not a bulletproof thing. We weren't batting 1,000, but there was a track record of success that if you did what you needed to do while that person was there on the dealership, doing a complete walk around, walking around the customer's trade-in, walking around and really getting detailed about what they want, what specifics are they looking for in a car. Yes, they are coming in to look for a specific car that they saw online, but maybe the car they came in to look at doesn't have the necessities they need for a car that they want to drive every single day. And so you do your job. You do what you need to do to sell the car. You're getting the first crack at it. Let the chips fall where they may. You're going to win some. You're going to lose some. But in regards to this, you got to knock it out of the park with Felix Ojo. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You got to.